It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us.
Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy. The dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
This is the next search on February 28, 2020, 7:44 p.m. How, does the FBI find people? And people's misspelled P-E-O-O-P-L-E.
I object.
Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Oh, she found out.
All right, welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Let me find which mouse works here. There we go. Big shout out to Leonie H. First in chat today. This afternoon, we're going to punish you, Leonie, for your promptness. That's it. You are sentenced to internet ownership for the rest of the afternoon. Everything IP related worldwide, you are responsible for fixing. So hopefully it goes smoothly for you. Hope you don't have anything else on your schedule. How does the FBI find people? All right. Welcome. Done a couple little tweaks on the technical side on my end to hopefully make the processing for YouTube be a little bit easier on the live stream. So if you guys do hear any clipping of the audio or anything like that, let me know. I think we got it figured out. But, welcome one and all. We're going to return to the courtroom here in just a moment, about 10 minutes or so. But it has been a spicy morning. Spicy. This afternoon is going to be a little bit slower, or at least, well, the latter part of this morning was a little slower because we covered all the credentials of Dr. Russell, who has been working in the medical field since before medical was invented. She's got all the experience. She's dog bites, emergency room. She's even got some police experience in there. Let's see. It was clipping when my stream started, but it refreshed and it's working fine. Okay. I think what happens is, you guys know I like to provide the best volume for everybody on court. We often will have a little bit louder volume in some of court than everything else, which makes the noises in court be particularly louder. And I think that is causing YouTube on the processing end to clip the audio at a lower level than my professional meter says it should clip at. So I'm gonna make some adjustments. I've got some limiters on and things like that. Hopefully that'll fix it. If that's the problem, I will do this going forward. Do you see the new motions filed this morning? Detective, one of the motions that the Commonwealth filed was the motion to keep out anything that the defense failed to turn over, like a Rule 14 violation. That was Ms. Officer Dever. That was her. She was the substance of one of those. So clearly, I think that was not granted on their part. All right. Hang on one second. All right, we're trying to get the doors closed because my son is playing the piano. He does so well, but y'all don't need to hear that during court. Let's see.
I'm not going to argue about semantics here.
All right, we're not going to do that. Remind everyone, chat is entitled to their own opinions, but we ask everyone to keep chat respectful. If you can't be kind, move on from the conversation, so mods don't have to give timeouts. So that's exactly right. Say her name right. What's my name? Yeah, Dever. Officer Dever, I believe it is. Do you think the prosecutor is going to go hard at Russell? Yes. It's not going to go well with how sweet and old she is if he does. I don't think... First of all, I think she's already faced him once when she was trying to keep him out, and by him when he was trying to keep her out in the voir dire. So I don't think he's going to have anything new, and she's probably ready for him. Her testimony that I've heard today sounds even more polished based on what she wants to testify to than we heard before. Like when she was talking about how just oftentimes in a dog bite, just the top teeth make contact. That helps the testimony that we know with the injury, because there's mostly, I believe, all the injuries are sort of on that exposed surface of the arm, not necessarily on the bottom side as well. So she's doing really well. She's prepared, and if he does bring the heat, I think she's going to be able to handle it. But we'll see, because Mr. Brennan has had some. He is a great cross-examiner. That's where he shines. So he's going to be able to lead the questions on that, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens overall. All right, where's that? That down, this down. Don't like the hum we're getting from court right now. I'm getting it. Is that my fan? It's my fan. Now, as I stick my finger in the fan, I promptly chop my finger off. Okay. Fan's running now. Finger's okay. I did not chop my finger off. I just stuck it in the fan. It's a safety fan. I can't hurt myself. I don't think he's going to go easy on her, but I think he will try to get some ground back where he can. I've taken the cover off that fan. I forget why. Oh, I was dusting the blades of the fan. You know how fans can pick up dust, as we see from the only fan here, which needs to be dusted badly. This little fan right here, you can see right up here. Yeah, it hurts when you stick your finger in there, but it was just buzzing a little bit. All right, back to court, back to waiting for court to start. My daughter was given a handmade dulcimer when she was 5 from her grandparents. Took private classes. Loved to hear her play, especially Boiling the Cabbage Down. That's a song I don't know. I might recognize the tune, but not from the title. Tony says, guys, I got opinions. We've all got some opinions on this one. It's a very interesting case, for sure. Appreciate you all sharing them respectfully as well. How did I get to Do Not Disturb? Did I turn that on? That means I just missed all the messages. Okay. There's some questions about a missing witness, and this is from the filings in court, from the docket. Basically, it's got two motions that were filed today. Defendant's motion to present a missing witness argument and request for a subsequent instruction, and a secondary defendant's motion to present a missing witness argument and request for a subsequent instruction. I think there's one that was unredacted and impounded, and then the second one was redacted, so I think it's just one document. But missing witness instruction, who's missing? Who's missing? Where are they? Dr. Russell will do fine on cross. Brennan will push the card, though. Speculation begin. Everyone is missing. Well, now it's a filing. So once it's a filing on the docket, it sort of takes the mystery away. It might have been a rumble in the courthouse halls, but a filing on the docket makes it a little more official. The defense filing this means that there's a witness they would like to call that has not been able to be reached for one reason or another. But there are a lot of ways you can get to a missing witness instruction, and we'll see. Let's see. Rhonda. Yes, I got it. Thank you very much. You sent me a package at the post office. I got it over the weekend. Thank you. I especially like the dried soup mixes. Some of those look like fire. The chili one. I might just have to make that. And thank you for the cup as well. That's really cool from the ranch. It's in the kitchen right now. I think my kids are using it as we speak. Yogi Kaz says, just catching up on this morning. Wowza. Yeah, wowza. For sure. Let's see. This is a case of opinions. You've now entered the Twilight Zone. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. I think it's Scanlon they can't find. We'll see. We'll see who it is. Hopefully, I know it's been redacted, but maybe someone will know. All right. All right. I think we're ready. Judge, Your Honor, we're ready. I know we went to lunch 2 minutes early, so if you can start 2 minutes early, that would be great. Let's get the lights turned on in the courtroom, and we'll be ready to go. Is the dog expert still on for this afternoon? Yes. Yes. We've got a lot. We're still on direct. Okay, so there's going to be the direct all the way through the injuries, probably talking about some of the prosecution's experts, why they're wrong about the injuries. That would come from this witness as well. And I don't know, maybe we'll get lucky this afternoon. Lucky the snowplow driver. They've rehomed a witness. The girl, I call her Dever, but I realize I've called her Deaver as well, and she got really upset that her name was used wrong. In the state's motion to keep her testimony out, they called her Denver, which is worse, I think, than Dever or Deaver. They called her Denver. But yes, this witness is going to be here probably for the rest of the day. I can hear birds. I've got the window open in the studio. It's beautiful outside. That is actually a mockingbird you're hearing. What do you make of Kelly's changing what she told the FBI? It's the same type of story that we heard from Jen McCabe, right? I didn't lie to the FBI because I didn't intend to, deceive them, and I corrected it later so that it wasn't a lie. I'm not sure. My mouth as a kid would have been washed out with soap long before that point. Yes, that a lie is a lie. But changing the story looks really bad on the prosecution. It looks bad on the Canton Police Department, and by extension, the prosecution. And then her doubling down and it getting a little ugly. That was wild. Ayden is here. Howdy, friends. Anyone catch a huge upset in the Norway Chess 2025 Championship? 19-year-old beat Magnus Carlsen, who hadn't lost in over 2 years. Ayden, I have to ask, did you bet on the underdog? Or did you lose money on the reigning champ? False memory. False memory. Was it Kerry Roberts? It was Kerry Roberts who had the... No, I thought it was Jen. Everyone lost money. Was there any cheating involved? Everyone always says there's cheating involved when there's an upset in chess. Were the dog bites not brought up in the first trial? All right, they were, Bonnie. They were brought up the first time. They're going to be brought up again during this one by Dr. Russell here in just a moment. Sarah Beth, my team's in the NBA Finals, so that's the only sport I'm worried about right now. Sarah Beth, who's your team? So we can cheer for them. Ben Griffin from North Carolina almost won the Memorial Tournament in the PGA last night. Came in second, only got $2.1 million. What a letdown. You walk away with only $2.1 million. I bet he's just crushed. He's just devastated with the life-changing amount of money. What a terrible day. It was a crappy day today, Mom. I only won $2.1 million. That's awesome. Second, that's anyone who can hit a ball and chase it around like that. That's impressive. Kevin M., how do you think you remembered something so specific, then you realize you didn't? That's really sus. I'm with you, Kevin. 100% on that one. 100%. Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, so go Thunder. Eyewitnesses get things wrong all the time, though. They do. They're probably the least reliable form of testimony is an eyewitness. I have been an eyewitness and given a report to police as a child for what I thought was somebody sneaking around in my neighbor's yard, and it turns out it was a pheasant. How I confused a pheasant, a ringneck pheasant, with a prowler, I don't know. But I was sure I'd seen it, and I like kept eyes on it. It was like he's hiding there in the bush type thing. And so when the cops show up, I'm like, he's there in the bush. I saw him go in. He hasn't left yet. It was a pheasant. A pheasant flew out of the bush. Anyone who knows anything about pheasants knows that if a guy was in the bush, the pheasant would not be. In my head, I knew the color of coat on and everything. It was the wings from the pheasant that I saw. I just saw movement. That is different. It is a little bit different. As a child, you're not reliable then anyway. Yeah, the cops learned that right away. Ooh, Magnus slammed the table after the loss. He didn't take it like a champ. The unpleasant pheasant. All right, we're a few minutes late in starting court, which we have been frequently. She probably worked later into the evening until she got reminded that she left at 3:45. Is the dog expert the same person as on the first trial? I think it was. Isn't this the same one? I think it's the same one. I don't know, because we saw her in the voir dire between, and I'm not sure if I mixed it up. Was same dog expert? Yes? Okay. I remember all this testimony about her background before. Did you get your e-bike? No. It's one of those things, like if I get the e-bike, it makes the decision about anything else I might want to get this summer. So if I get it, then it's done. Decision's done, no more equipment, nothing else will be purchased. Get his free e-bike here at my house. Well, I need an e-bike that can haul me, and I'm a full-grown adult male, 6'2" and a little bit of a winter coat on, and all my camera gear, batteries, tripods, things like that. So I found a bike that has 400 pounds of carrying capacity, which is way more than I need. And it has two motors, like the front is powered and the back is powered. It's got full suspension, so it's going to be comfortable. And it says it can go 40 to 80 miles on a charge. And I can use it in throttle mode, so I don't have to pedal if I don't want to. So it's basically a motorcycle. Electric bike. Electric bike can go up to 20 miles an hour with just the throttle, or 28 miles an hour if I pedal in pedal assist mode. Cannot drive the car because I'm going to be on horse trails up in the mountain in Virginia. I'm going to be on horse trails, and cars can't go there. And I can't use a motorcycle or a four-wheeler because the ranch doesn't allow gas-powered vehicles up there. I can't even use a gas-powered generator. What kind of bike do I? I'm looking at one called a Pucky Puppy. P-U-C-K. Oh, I'll send you the link. Here we go. Hang on one second. This is the one I'm looking at. That's the e-bike link. I need Pucky Puppy to sponsor the channel. That's what I need. You have a Pucky Puppy? I'm looking at the Labrador R. It's the Golden R, Golden Retriever, I think it is. They name all their bikes after dog breeds.
What is back in session in ABC?
Right, Mr. Leslie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon and welcome back, Dr. Russell.
Good afternoon.
Your Honor, if we could please publish Exhibit 1 in evidence.
Okay.
Mr. Wolk. Dr. Russell, do you recognize Exhibit 1 from your review of the documents in this case?
Yes.
And what is it that Exhibit 1 represents?
It's a picture of the forearm of the decedent.
And we left off at lunch, and I'm not going to cover too much old ground, just to reorient ourselves back to where we were. You were discussing the basis of your opinion and conclusion that you said that these wounds were caused by, why don't you restate, well, let's continue on in the basis of your opinion. Let's just continue on. Can you go through what is in Exhibit 1 and describe how it is that you came to your opinion?
Well, I observed multiple patterns of striations or linear abrasions.
I'm sorry to interrupt you so soon. Do you have the pointer in case you want to use that available?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's multiple groupings of linear abrasions, and linear means like a line, linear. So there's multiple of those, and here's one. Here's another one closer to the elbow. Here's another one closer to the wrist. And here's another array of linear abrasions near the elbow.
In terms of these wounds, in assessing their source, do you look at them individually, collectively, or both?
Both. I look at them individually, and then I put them in context of how they relate to one another.
And how they relate to one another, is there a name of that methodology that you use in terms of how they relate to each other?
Well, I think it's a pattern methodology, pattern recognition.
And what pattern is it that you see here with regard to all of these wounds on the right arm?
Well, I see multiple linear groupings together in a area from the mid-arm to the mid-forearm.
Is there any analysis of direction that is involved in your analysis?
Yes.
What is it?
I believe that these wounds were initiated closer to the anterior surface, or the front of the forearm.
I'm sorry, Dr. Russell, to interrupt you, but there's a fan back here which I can hear, but if you could just keep your voice up, that would be great for me.
Yes, I believe they all started closer to the anterior or front portion of the arm. Like they started up here, up here, and the direction is towards the posterior portion of the arm.
Now, if we could just go back briefly, I want you to do a comparison. If we could go back, Your Honor, please, back to Exhibit 157 that we had up earlier.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 167. As between 167 and 1, which one is closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located?
The previous one.
All right, so let's go back to the previous one. So that one is closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located on January 29 of 2022, correct?
So they changed?
Yes.
And so January 29, 2022, if we can go back to Exhibit 157, or 67, excuse me, 167, Can you tell when this picture was taken from the depiction?
Well, it says January 31st.
Okay, so is that the basis for you saying that the Exhibit 1 was closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located?
Yes.
All right, so I want to do another comparison, have you do another comparison of the two. If you can look at what is depicted in Exhibit 167, and now go back to 1 and see if you see any differences at all as to what's depicted. Do you see any differences with regard to the wounds on the arm, or the arm just in general? Let's go back to, see that now, let's go back to 167.
Can we just put both on the screen? Is that okay? The judge's getting
Well, the
frustrated.
coloration of the photograph is slightly different.
And what do you mean the coloration?
Well, the skin tones here are more yellow than they are in the previous photograph.
Or
and I'm sorry, what is, do you have a conclusion as to why there is a difference in skin tone in this exhibit compared to Exhibit 1?
Well, it could just be technique, lighting technique. I do see some lividity on the chest, postmortem lividity, and that's what that means is pooling of the blood, which happens after death.
Can you explain to the jury what lividity is?
Yes. So, blood follows the laws of gravity, and the blood will settle to the dependent parts of the body. In this case, the body, the body of Mr. O'Keefe is horizontal, and so the blood is going to settle from the top of the chest, which would probably be up here somewhere, down towards the back, which would be the inferior portion of the chest in that position. And likewise, it would happen on the extremities too.
So, you just mentioned the extremities. Do you see any lividity on the extremity here, the right arm?
You know, actually, there is discoloration over here in the elbow area. I do see some lividity. Okay, so there's several areas of lividity on the arm. I'm sorry. There's some right here. This redness right here in the near the wrist. I believe that that's postmortem lividity. I believe that this redness in here near the elbow is also postmortem lividity, and yeah, that's what I believe. Okay. That's postmortem lividity.
And again, lividity is that you said something that sets in after time, after death?
Yes, it's the pooling of blood.
Is there, with regard to this depiction, do you see any bruising with regard to that elbow?
You know, I think that initially, earlier this morning, with the lighting, I may have said that this was bruising, but now as I think about it, and I see all this other lividity here, lividity over here, I believe that's postmortem lividity.
And if we could go back to Exhibit 1, and you said this is the one that's closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located, do you see any lividity or bruising with regard to that photo?
I don't see any definite bruising. I do see some discoloration up here near the shoulder. I'm not sure if that's postmortem lividity or not. It could be early postmortem lividity.
Okay. So if we could, thank you, Mr. Woe, can we take that depiction down for the moment? What I'd like to do is to, and we'll come back to that. If we could have the lights back on, please. Thank you. Have you had experience prior to this case in performing your pattern recognition methodology skills with regard to dog-inflicted wounds on humans? In other words, have you seen dog-inflicted wounds that have a pattern on humans?
I've seen dog wounds that have had a pattern. I didn't need to do it to utilize that skill because I also had other information about the case. You know, for instance, the police officer or the victim himself said, you know, I was attacked by a dog.
Right. And for those that can you give an example, like in the ER, just as to how you would come to have that knowledge or otherwise? How would you generally come to have the knowledge as to a potential source of the wound?
Oftentimes it's the victim that tells me, or in the case of the law enforcement dog bites, I had both victim and police officers tell me that the police dog inflicted these wounds.
And so and how many times generally in your career, we discussed it this morning, how many times generally did someone present with dog-inflicted wounds and you were told that these wounds were from a dog? Roughly how many in your career?
Well, all of the law enforcement dog bites, so that would be 40 to 60 or so of those, plus most of the non-law enforcement dog bites, the patients or the mother have said, this, a dog bit me or a dog bit my son.
And for those where someone said something, the dog bit my son, were the wounds that you saw similar to or different from the wounds that are depicted in Exhibit 1 that we've had up on the screen?
On the civilian dog bites, there's some similarities, but not as many striations on the civilian dog bites.
And are the more striations on what's depicted in Exhibit 1, does that lead you to more easily conclude it's from a dog bite, or is it harder for you to conclude it's from a dog bite?
Neither.
Right. So is your prior experience as an emergency room physician, as a physician in Cochrane, does that experience allow you to exercise pattern recognition skills with regard to Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 157?
Objection. Sustained.
Do you use your pattern recognition, did you use your pattern recognition skills in evaluating Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 157?
Yes.
In terms of characteristics of dog bites, if we can go back to Exhibit 1, please. Is Exhibit 1 highly characteristic of a dog bite or lowly characteristic of a dog bite?
Yes. Sustained.
How would you describe the characteristics of what appears on Exhibit 1?
What I see on Exhibit 1 is multiple strikes from a dog.
I'm going to allow it.
Can you please repeat your answer?
Yes.
What you see?
Multiple strikes from a dog.
And with regard to, do you see any characteristics in terms of a medical observation with regard to those strikes?
I don't understand the question.
Are you familiar with the medical term pathognomonic?
Oh, yes.
What is the definition of pathognomonic?
Pathognomonic in medicine means that the characteristics of a condition are so highly specific and unique that they basically say that it can only be from a certain condition and no other condition. So to the exclusion of all other conditions. That's what is meant by pathognomonic. At least that's my understanding.
Do you consider these wounds pathognomonic?
Yes. Sustained.
How do you evaluate these wounds in terms of what you call their characteristics?
I characterize them as highly specific for a dog attack.
I'm going to strike the last word, Mr. Wilson.
In terms of the characteristics that you have talked about, are there any other aspects of dog dentition that you can discern from Exhibit 1?
I don't understand the question.
You mentioned earlier when we had the dog dentition exhibit up, you mentioned an arch. Is there any aspect of Exhibit 1 that concerns an arch?
Yes. There is, in my opinion, an arch-like structure right here towards the lower part of the forearm, towards the wrist, suggesting that this here is made from the very front teeth of the dog. Now, when one looks at these injuries or wounds, one has to remember that, number one, this is not a mannequin. This is a person whose skin is somewhat elastic, whose skin will slide over the underlying bones, and so therefore some of the wounds may have been created by the exact same teeth, for instance, but look differently, depending on the part of the anatomy, the elasticity of the skin, also depending on things like if there was clothing or something in between the teeth and the skin. So one has to consider and also there may be motion motion effects. The living victim could have been pulling away from the dog. The dog could have been, pulling or jumping and only catching a glimpse, a little slight bit of the skin with his teeth. So there's a lot of movement and things that one has to consider when an injury is inflicted on a body.
Objection, move to strike. I'm going to strike that.
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay, so we know that the judge in the ruling that this witness can testify in court. The ruling was that her testimony would be limited to certain aspects of this testimony. It sounds like something in there has strayed into the area where the judge said, I'm not going to let her testify about X, Y, Z. And I don't recall off the top of my head. The word attack has been struck, like a dog attack. So I think we're running into a previous ruling about what this witness can and can't testify to. The dog had a bite history. We're aware of the Chloe didn't play well with others. How many grooves were in the taillights? Did they have any sharp pieces on the seams? The taillight, when intact, is relatively smooth all the way around. It has a continuous plastic cover with no sharp edges anywhere. Now there's sharpness on the inside corner, and this would be inside underneath where the car body is. You wouldn't even be exposed. And there's definitely sharpness over here on where it comes to a point. But this is an area that was not broken on the taillight. This part was still intact. So when it's intact, nothing sharp on here at all. But when broken, now you've got 1,000 different razor knives. So. As soon as I have some time sloth life, I'm going to just dissect that light and cut it apart. It's never going to be in a car. It's never going to work again when I'm done with it. But I do have, I've got power. Now I can power. I've got all the cables I need to turn. So I might be able to light it up here. I would need my jackery. 12-volt battery power, and I could light up some of the taillights. I'm going to take off the cover, take off the diffuser, and look inside there. But I need to be able to cut it apart. No DNA found on the taillight. You're correct. Which, with this type of injury, where it appears that the skin made contact with a sharp or pointed surface, you would expect DNA to be found on that surface. Why aren't you doing the brake test first? Virginia, because so many other people have done the brake tests with more controlled testing than I'm capable of doing. Even Dr. Was it Berger? Welcher's companion. Even his test was as flawed as it was better than the ones I could do. So we're gonna do something a little different. Just take it apart. Is Mrs. O'Reilly going to drive at you at 24 miles an hour? No. But maybe the e-bike. Maybe I could mount it on the e-bike. Plus, I would have to get all the blue paint out, and I'd have to do the cosplay. What happened to Chloe? Where is she? Kelly, this is an interesting question. The prosecution, which I think this is probably going to come out at some point, possibly after this witness in rebuttal, the prosecution has said we sent somebody to get a mold of Chloe's mouth, and we went up to where she lives and got the mold, and it doesn't match. The problem is the people where the dog lives don't have a Chloe. They have a different dog by a different name, and there's no records that show that it was ever Chloe. They're just saying, "Oh, we changed the name, and here's a German Shepherd." And I would have to. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. It could be that they just changed Chloe's name to something else, because I don't think Chloe's a good name for that dog anyway. Chloe's a very nice name for a dog that bites. But was it Burgess? It was Burgess. Okay. It was Cora. They have a Cora, not a Chloe. There's zero proof that Cora is Chloe. Let's see. Well, says you got the light from Amazon or from Lexus Direct. If not from Lexus, I'm almost certain that the plastic is as strong as the Lexus OEM. This is the Lexus Direct shipment. This is an OEM light. I got the OEM light. Very expensive. Did I get the toothed version of the taillight? This bird is going nuts. Okay. Well, we're talking about the mockingbird because it's singing outside my window. I have a window in my bedroom that when at night, if I pull up my phone and I hold it up and look at it, you might be able to see the light from my phone outside the window. And every time I do that, the bird starts chirping. Like it's staring in my window every night. And so it's my own fault if the bird chirps. Oh, there's a siren. We're going to count that one. Brings us up to 2:20 for the day, or for the trial.
Mayor, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. If we could put the Exhibit 1 back up on the screen, please, Mr. Wolf. Dr. Russell, is what's depicted on the screen one dog bite or more than one dog bite?
Ask it differently, Mr. Wilson.
What is depicted on the screen?
Dr. Russell, can you determine from this depiction, how do you evaluate this depiction with regard to dog bites?
Well, I see several groupings of wounds. Here's one grouping up near the shoulder. Here's another distinct grouping near the elbow, but above the elbow. Here is a third grouping around the back of the elbow and the upper forearm. Here's some additional marks. I think they're separate, but I don't know exactly if they are separate dog bites or scratches. And then there's another grouping around the posterior forearm near the wrist. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's at least 4 different types of either bites or combination bite and claw marks.
You mentioned claw marks. Is there any evidence of claw marks in this exhibit?
It's hard to say exactly what what these marks are. This one here, and even to a certain extent, this one here has some characteristics of both claw marks and bites. So,
even though you may not be able to determine whether it's a claw mark, can you determine, or the specific type of mark, can you determine that those are from a dog?
I believe they are, yes.
So now let's go. You mentioned, we'll switch, we can leave that up for just a moment, because we're going to come right back to it. And Dr. Russell, earlier on you used the phrase incomplete dental impression. Do you recall that?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. What phrase would you like to use? Because you were describing whether a dog or not had a complete bite. What phrase would you like to use?
That's okay. Incomplete bite, I
okay.
might
Do you
consider.
see any evidence of an incomplete bite on Exhibit 1?
I believe all of the bites here are incomplete.
Why do you come to that conclusion?
Because, in my opinion, they don't penetrate the skin, which I would consider more of a bite or more of a complete bite. So they're just scratches on the surface of the skin.
When you say they don't penetrate the skin, we see the marks that are on there. What do you mean that they don't penetrate the skin?
They don't penetrate the full thickness of the skin and extend into the soft tissue underneath.
And what, in terms of incompleteness that you just described, have you observed incomplete dog bites in your career?
Many.
Roughly how many incomplete dog bites have you observed and treated in your career?
Over 100.
In our incomplete bites, the majority of bites from civilian dogs, or are they a minority of the bites from civilian dogs?
I believe they're the majority of the bites of civilian dogs.
So shouldn't it be more than 250? She's treated 500.
Did you determine whether these wounds occurred at the same time?
I believe they did.
Why do you come to the conclusion that they occurred at the same time?
Because of the wound characteristics, the coloration of the wounds, the tissue reaction to the wounds. So they all timing are at the same time, around the same time.
Did you determine whether these wounds were sustained by Mr. O'Keefe before or after he died?
Before he died.
How do you reach the conclusion that these wounds were suffered by Mr. O'Keefe before he died?
Because they have what we call a vital reaction. So there is an ever so slight vital reaction or inflammation around the edges of the wounds. And so that determines that, that supports the fact that they were inflicted during life.
Dr. Russell, did you observe Mr. O'Keefe's right arm personally?
No.
Is it generally accepted in the practice of medicine, particularly emergency or pathology, to observe and determine the source of a wound from a photograph after death?
It is generally accepted.
And have you, in your career, used photographs to determine wounds and patterns of wounds?
Yes.
And is that an accepted practice?
Yes.
And it is a generally accepted practice?
Yes.
Now, in conducting we're going to switch a little bit now to what you call the differential diagnosis. In conducting your differential diagnosis with regard to motor vehicle accidents, describe for the jury how you performed that differential diagnosis with regard to the decedent. And we can leave that up for just a moment. Go ahead, Dr. Russell.
Objection.
So I'm going to need to see you. Sorry, folks.
Mr. Alessi wants a little bit more from this witness than that he's gotten, and there's a limit here that he's not able to burst through. He's struggled. I will say this: he has struggled with his questioning with this witness, and not just that. This is the second witness that we've had from Mr. Alessi. Mr. Alessi handed direct on that. That he's really had trouble getting the questions out and getting to the answers he wants. So it's been much better on cross. Let's see. Is this still the direct? Yes, this is still direct. Fire girl. We're waiting for cross. The judge did deny some of her testimony. If someone can remind me what portion she was not allowed to testify to. That was after that lengthy voir dire. Don't understand how the family can sit so close to KR in the sidebar they can overhear everything said. Barb, the courtroom, we have the benefit of the microphones. The microphones don't help anyone in court other than the court recorder if she's listening to those headphones. They're for our benefit and for her benefit. In the court themselves, they don't have speakers to amplify the sound. So we might hear a witness just fine because the microphone picks them up. But if they're quiet and talking to the mic quietly, we hear fine, but nobody else in the room can hear because all they hear are the fans, the air conditioning. It's a terrible courtroom as far as audio is concerned that way. And that's why you'll frequently hear them say, "Can you speak up? I can't hear you. Can you repeat that again?" And we heard it the first time. We heard it through the microphone. I think the jury has speakers. We saw them during the voir dire. That was a different courtroom, wasn't it? I don't remember. They might. On Friday? Let me go back to Fridays and look and see what we had there. Let's see, we are on 32. That would have been... This is Maureen, so 30. Showing the jury has microphones all along that wall, but I don't see any speakers. Just while they're doing this, I'll show you. This is the view on Friday. From the Ward Ire, we've got the row of microphones along that bar, but I'm not seeing speakers anywhere. I don't see any speakers. All right. I think it's just a base. It's just a weighted base. Alessi is asking questions on direct right now of his witness, Dr. Russell. He's struggled a little bit, possibly because he's trying to ask a legitimate question which will lead to an answer that might push the limits of what she's allowed to testify to. But Mr. Brennan has been prompt in his objections, both on questions and on answers, and has had a lot of them sustained. The questions aren't great. Right, it's like she's a little rusty on this testimony too. Ayden, I don't know if she's getting paid. I imagine she probably is, at least for her time and travel. I'd be surprised if she's not. She's an expert. Strike the dog bite comment from this dog bite expert. Yes. Updates from court. Let's just check in with Sue O'Connell, who's there in court, giving updates on Twitter. Let's see. One juror had her head in her hands during this sidebar. The juror with her head down just looked up and watched Karen use her phone and then looked up to the sidebar group, and now she's fidgeting. She's not usually this active.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
With Your Honor's permission to republish Exhibit 1. Thank you for your patience, Dr. Russell. Is what the wounds you see on Exhibit 1 consistent or inconsistent with what you have seen from your experience with regard to motor vehicle accident victims?
Inconsistent.
If I could have published Exhibit 206, which is in evidence, Your Honor.
Okay.
Do you recognize Exhibit 206?
Yes.
Did you review that as part of any report in this case?
Yes.
And can you describe how you reviewed this document as part of your evaluation of this case?
Well, I reviewed the injuries, which are so this is a decedent, a picture of a decedent, a different case, not the decedent in this case, totally separate case.
And so is this from Dr. Welcher's report that you reviewed?
Yes.
All right, so continue, please.
And so this is a person deceased, looks like in the street. and he's got multiple injuries. And this is allegedly from an auto versus pedestrian accident.
So if we could, are you able to discern any injuries to any limbs from this? If you could zoom in on the limbs, Mr. Wolk, thank you.
So there is a very extensive degloving, partially degloving, avulsion injury to the forearm of this individual, the extensive skin loss, damage to the subcutaneous tissue, possibly damage to other tissues beneath that.
And Mr. Wolk, if you could zoom back out and go to the list that is highlighted in the original of this. And Dr. Russell, can you tell me whether you evaluated the list, and if so, how did you evaluate that list in connection with the photo?
Well, the photo is limited only really to the upper chest and the right arm. And so I can't comment on any of the CAT scan findings here on this list. But this is a list of numerous traumatic injuries to this person. And regarding the arm, it says right upper extremity wound with vascular injury, clinical.
What does that mean, if anything, to you?
Well, that suggests it's a soft tissue wound. However, what they're saying is clinical, so they're not commenting on if there were any X-ray findings, for instance. On an X-ray, but I mean would be a post-mortem X-ray. And this is just a clinical diagnosis or a visual hands-on diagnosis.
Do you know whether that line that you just read relates to any part of the photograph? Any part of the photograph?
Well, I believe it relates to that injury that we pointed out in the previous photograph.
Can you switch back to that, please, Mr. Wolk? And if you could just zoom in and just what does...
So this is the wound that they are talking about. It's a large gaping wound, soft tissue wound.
If we could go back to the list, please. Zoom in. Thank you.
But...
Please continue.
No. What I was going to say is that there are multiple other injuries in this person. Multiple serious, significant injuries, subdural hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, intraventricular hemorrhage, liver laceration, pneumothorax. That's blood and air in the chest cavity outside of the lungs. So it's in an area where it shouldn't be. This person had numerous injuries.
Are you able to compare these injuries in that photo in this Exhibit 206, and did you compare them to your review of the autopsy report and other medical records of Mr. O'Keefe?
Sustained.
You can't compare autopsy records.
Oh.
Okay. You can take that down. From your review, did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any liver laceration?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any gaping, as you called it, lacerations to the right forearm?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any pneumothorax injuries that you were describing with regard to 206?
No pneumothorax.
Let's switch to another topic. Let's talk about clothing of the decedent. In forming your opinion, did you consider... Let's talk about clothing of the decedent. In forming your opinion, did you consider Mr. O'Keefe's clothing in relation to his wounds?
Yes.
If we could, Your Honor, have one Exhibit 150 in evidence published.
Okay.
Do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 150?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's a picture of part of the hoodie, sweatshirt or shirt that Mr. O'Keefe was wearing at the time.
And wearing when?
At the time of his death.
And did you evaluate this photo as part of your review of the autopsy report?
Yes.
And we're going to come back to this. If we could please switch to, Your Honor, 147C in evidence.
Okay.
Thank you. And what is 147C?
So this is a close-up of the sleeve of that shirt that we just saw on the previous image. And there's a hole or defect here in the sleeve, which I'm circling with the pointer. And there's a label that labels it number 1. And so I see this hole that is rather round and appears to have some fabric coming out of the hole towards the exterior of the jacket or the shirt.
Did you attribute any significance to the shape of the wound, and if so, what significance?
The shape of the hole, yes. So it's rounded. I actually attributed a lot of significance to that.
Describe a lot of significance that you attributed to this hole.
Well, I believe that this hole was made by a canine tooth, and with the tooth going into the shirt, reaching the skin, and then coming out of the shirt, pulling out some fabric with it.
And we'll come back to this. If we could, Mr. Wolk, go to 147D as in David that's in evidence. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
What is it?
A round hole in the shirt, again with some fabric fibers pointing towards the outside of the shirt.
Is this the same hole that we just saw on 147C or a different hole?
Could we go back? I don't know.
Okay, so let's now go back to Exhibit 150. What significance, if any, do you give to the various triangles that are on the hoodie? Could you describe to the jury what those are and what's their purpose?
So the triangles are labels that were placed by either the police or the crime lab or someone, and the point of the triangle generally is pointing towards a hole in the shirt. As you can see, there are multiple ones here, and I want to make sure that you don't confuse it with this rather large defect, which is caused by something else.
So let's start with each one, and we'll go through these quickly. Let's start and zoom in on number 1. What did you conclude about the source of that hole in the hoodie?
Sustained.
Did you evaluate what is depicted as number 1 in that slide as part of your review?
Yes.
And what was your evaluation?
Sustained.
Let's go back and zoom out. Have you, in your career, examined clothing either as part of your forensic pathology practice or your emergency medicine practice to determine the source of defects in clothing?
Yes.
How many times have you done that approximately in your career?
Several hundred.
And have you, in those several hundred times, have you ever had to reach a conclusion as to whether there was any connection between defects in clothing and wounds to humans?
Many times.
Can you give some examples of the many times you've had to look at clothing and defects in clothing to assist you in determining wound recognition in a human?
Yes. So let me clarify. It's mostly used in forensic pathology, not so much in emergency medicine. The clothing and the cause of the wound is as important as in emergency medicine as the treatment of the wound. But in forensic pathology, it's a key component to any examination where you think that it was an unnatural death. So, so I've done it in gunshot wounds, in stab wounds, multiple times. Looking at the defects, looking at the direction of the, of what I think the bullet, bullet track was, determining entry and exit wounds. In stab wounds, I've utilized them to help determine offensive and defensive wounds or injuries. So yes, many times.
Have you ever performed that analysis? You mentioned, testified earlier, 500 to 1,000 evaluations of dog-inflicted wounds on humans. Have you ever performed the analysis of defects in clothing and compared them to wounds on humans in the context of dog-inflicted wounds on humans?
I don't think so. Perhaps.
Well, yes. So in terms of, have there been any instances of doing that in your career? Have you done that at all in your career?
Maybe that one child case.
All right. So let's go now to you were
someone got buzzed.
Discussing the defects in the arm, as well as the wounds in the arm, and then the defects in the clothing. In terms of back to Exhibit 1.
She's all of us. We're all confused by these questions.
In terms of that pattern that is in the arm, and in terms, let's go back to the hoodie. I'll strike that. Have you, in your career, in the terms of evaluating motor vehicle accidents, have you evaluated the clothing of victims of motor vehicle accidents?
Yes.
How many times roughly have you evaluated what clothing looks like in terms of motor vehicle accidents?
Well, in many cases, I had to cut off the clothing in the emergency department, so I observed the clothing then. And then in the post-mortem cases, I evaluated the clothing, but oftentimes, sometimes it wasn't helpful.
Have you ever evaluated clothing in determining whether or not the defects in the clothing are consistent or inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident? Have you ever evaluated that as a forensic pathologist?
Not specifically.
Right. And in terms of your observations in either emergency medicine or forensic pathology, have you ever observed defects from motor vehicle accidents in clothing?
Yes.
Is what is depicted in this exhibit consistent or inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident?
Sustained.
Alessi's not getting there. It's taking a long time.
In determining,
every time he gets
let's go back to
down.
Exhibit 1, please.
He's trying to lay more foundation.
In determining and reaching your opinion with regard to the source of these wounds, is it necessary for you to reach that opinion to see a specific dog to determine whether the wounds are from a dog in general?
No.
And in your experience that you talked about earlier today, the 500 to 1,000, was it ever necessary in that experience to go locate the dog, to see the dog, to treat or evaluate the patient?
No.
Why is it, well, in terms of, we're going to move to another category, studies. Did you review any studies informing your opinions in this case?
Can we put the lights on and take this?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Yes.
Yes, many.
And did those studies that you review support or not support your conclusions in this case?
Sustain.
Which studies did you rely upon?
Well, I reviewed quite a few, 10 to 20 in depth, and I relied a lot on 2 of the articles.
Do you recall the names of the lead authors in the studies that you said, that you just referenced?
Yes, one of them was Demuniak.
Could you spell that, please?
I wish. DEMUNNYCK, I believe.
And was there...
And then there was another one, Pollack, Pollack.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, my recollection is correct. We've already pre-marked as exhibits for identification these studies, 2 studies. I may be incorrect in that. If so, I have studies. I'm going to show them to Mr. Yes, thank you. So we can just make sure I have all the pages.
We get the rare Mr. Lessie and witness shot. Always partially.
Do you have these handed up for the order?
Oh, I have none.
Okay. If I can just have a moment, Your Honor. Okay, I've got them. These are them. If I could have marked for identification as one document, please.
Exhibit PPP for ID.
PPP has now been entered into evidence. Get the sticker, give it back to Alessi. Alessi gives it to the witness.
One more, Madam Court Reporter. Thank you.
And exhibit QQQ for ID.
Mr. Alessi and the court reporters down.
Sure.
He can't start yet because she's busy and can't
Yes, Your Honor.
keep track of what was said.
Exhibit PPP is the Demuniak, and exhibit QQQ is Pollack, and those are the lead author names. You're welcome. May I leave them with the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Russell, I have provided you with those 2 exhibits. I would ask you to just briefly take a look at them and let me know whether you recognize those as the articles that you were referencing before.
Yes.
Now let's start out with the Munich study. Is that exhibit PPP?
PP.
Right. So is this the study that you referenced earlier in your testimony?
Yes.
Can you briefly describe for the jury how that study related to the opinions in this case?
Objection. Sustained.
Are these the studies that you cite to as a basis for support for your opinions in this case?
Yes.
And is QQQ a study that also supports your opinion in this case?
Yes.
Now, in terms of your conclusions with regard to, if we can go back once more to exhibit number 1. With regard to your opinion on the cause of these injuries, can you once again state your opinion as to the cause of these injuries?
I believe these injuries were caused by a dog attack.
So I'm going to strike that word.
Yeah, so Dr. Russell, if you could, with regard to bite parlance, can you state what your opinion is with regard to bite? So do you have an opinion as to what caused these injuries?
Yes. I believe that these injuries are the result of dog bites and or claw marks.
And do you
go.
hold
She can't say
that
attack.
opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.
Finally got there. Daffy Nine,
That's all
welcome to the
questions
gallery.
I have for this witness at this time.
Here comes Mr. Brennan. Actually,
You want these? Okay.
do we have a break this afternoon? What are we doing now? It's 3:10 in the courtroom. Usually only go till 4. Maybe we're working right till the break. Ooh, he's got big binders, lots of questions.
May I?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Russell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brennan.
Dr. Russell, we've met before.
Yes.
I've asked you questions before,
Yes.
and you've testified before where I've had a chance to ask you about some of your statements and opinions, haven't I?
Yes.
Before this case, had you ever testified as an expert in dog bites in any federal court in the United States?
No.
Before this case, had you ever testified in any state court in anywhere in the country as an expert in dog bites?
No.
Other than this case, have you ever testified in a courtroom as an expert about dog bites?
No.
Last year, you learned that there was litigation regarding this case, Commonwealth vs. Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
You learned a little bit of information about it, and it piqued your interest, didn't it?
Yes.
Did you know that the case was receiving a lot of attention?
No.
Did you know that it was on television?
I had no idea until I got here.
You spoke to a colleague in Los Angeles, correct?
I'm sorry, I spoke to who?
A colleague?
I spoke to a district attorney in Los Angeles.
And did you just bring up the subject, or did that person bring it up to you?
I brought it up.
When you brought that up, is it because you knew of the relationship between that district attorney and somebody on the defense team?
Yes.
You wanted to get involved in this high-profile case, didn't you?
No.
Well, you weren't called by anybody on the defense and retained as an expert in the traditional sense, were you?
That's correct.
It was after you reached out yourself and interjected yourself into this case, true?
I did so for a reason, and the reason being that I knew I was one of the only people in the United States board certified and residency trained in emergency medicine and also residency trained in forensic pathology, and therefore I had a unique skill or knowledge set, and I was one of the very few people that had the knowledge of dog bites, as well as those other trainings.
And because of the fact that you held this opinion about yourself, you wanted to get involved in this very high-profile case, didn't you?
I thought I could help clarify the issues as to whether or not this could be a dog bite, and maybe they could move on to something else if it wasn't.
Did you want to get involved?
No, not really.
Inevitably, you got hired by the defense, didn't you?
Yes, I reluctantly agreed.
And they paid for your time?
They are paying for the time.
Yes. Did you know that there was a relationship between the district attorney you spoke to in California and somebody on this defense table?
I know, yes.
So when you spoke to the district attorney, did you have the hope that they would reach out on your behalf to get you involved in this case?
As I said, I hoped that they could reach out to the team and I could help clarify issues so that they could move on. If it wasn't, if these weren't dog bites, then no sense spending a whole bunch of time on it.
After you testified in this case last year, you then began to advertise yourself as a dog bite expert, didn't you?
I had advertised myself many years ago as a dog bite expert, I think. I'm not sure, but yes, I did advertise myself as a emergency medicine and forensic pathology expert.
Did you take
with other, sub interests?
Sure. Did you take a photograph of you testifying at trial and put it on a website to promote your accomplishments?
It's a listing service for physicians, and yes, there is a photograph.
So you took a photograph from your participation in this event?
Yes, that's there.
And you used that photograph in your participation at this event to try to procure future work, didn't you?
I wouldn't say that that was the reason, no.
When you listed a number of things that you have experience in after this case, you then added that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
I believe I am an expert in dog bites, yes.
But after this case, and after you took the photograph from this case, and after you created this advertising, you then added the fact that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
It was all at the same time, and it was submitted at the same time.
Right. After this case, after you participated or volunteered to involve yourself in this case, you then used it as a marketing opportunity, didn't you?
Well, I also I had retired from my full-time job, and I had time, and I wanted to get more involved in some forensic legal cases, and not specifically dog bite cases. I have much more experience with other cases.
Undoubtedly, I respect that, but simply after you testified in this case, you did use your participation as a way to try to garner future interest in cases and income, didn't you?
I did, but I did not mention this case.
Have you testified in any other court since this case as a dog bite expert?
No.
You had written a few articles that were peer-reviewed on dog bites back in, is it the 1990s?
Yes.
And they involved law enforcement canines?
Yes.
And you describe in those articles how a law enforcement canine grabs and holds. Is that the technique they call it?
Yes.
Where they lock their jaw and then they pull and hold on to the subject that they're attacking or holding?
Yes, that's what they were trained to do back then.
And you would agree that there's a difference between, generally, the way a domestic dog bites and a law enforcement dog bites?
Generally, yes.
since those 2 articles in 1990, have you authored anything else regarding dog bites?
No.
You had mentioned that you had gone to seminars regarding identification. Now, I had a chance to ask you a number of months ago about some details about training and education you have on pattern recognition analysis as it specifically relates to dog bites. Remember I asked you those questions a number of months ago?
I believe you did.
And I'd asked you if you could give us any specific listed trainings that you had regarding pattern recognition analysis of dog bites. And at that time, you did not have any names of any classes or seminars or certificates that you have. You mentioned again today that you have attended seminars regarding dog identification analysis. Do you now know some of those trainings and seminars? And are any of those listed on your CV?
The trainings that I went to on bite marks in general, they were bite marks in general, and included things like how to determine what was a human bite, how to differentiate a human bite from a dog bite. But no, I did not specifically attend seminars limited to dog bites only. However, actually, there was one this past February that I did attend at the American Academy of Forensic Science.
Over your many, many decades, you did not attend any seminars on pattern recognition analysis of dog bites, did you?
Of specifically dog bites? No.
I only want to talk about dog bites. I know you're well trained and educated. I respect that, but I want to talk about dog bites. You didn't attain any certificates in pattern recognition analysis of dog bites, did you?
I don't think there are any that exist, any training programs like that.
In fact, forensically, have you ever been presented with a wound and been asked to determine whether or not the source of it was a dog bite, other than right here in this very case? Have you ever been asked to do that in your entire history?
In my clinical career, perhaps once or twice, but not, not that I can give you a specific name.
Well, the couple times, tell us what stands out. When were you asked ever, over your entire career, to do a forensic evaluation of a wound and identify whether it was a dog bite? When did that happen?
A forensic evaluation? No, never.
Never?
Never.
Okay.
It just doesn't come up.
Okay. And so this is the first shot, the first crack you've had at looking at a photograph and trying to make a determination based just on a photograph whether or not the wound is generated from a particular mechanism, and in this case, your opinion, a dog bite.
No, actually, I disagree. I've been taking photographs of dog bites since the 1990s.
And when you took the photographs, you knew they were dog bites?
I did know that they were dog bites, yes. I have a collection.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That was it.
Okay. So not when you knew it was a dog bite and you took a photo. I know you have an interest. I'm asking, other than this case, there was never, ever a time in your career where you were presented with a photo and asked to give an opinion whether the mechanism of injury was a dog bite, other than this case?
That's correct.
So this is not a pattern recognition analysis engagement that you have any experience in before this effort?
I've recognized that pattern many times.
I appreciate your opinion, but I want to ask my question. You do not have experience over your long, accomplished career in the effort of pattern recognition analysis of dog bite wounds. Isn't that fair to say?
Okay.
You mentioned before, and you just mentioned again, so I want to ask you some more questions. You believe that you are uniquely qualified to look at a photograph and give an opinion about the source of the injury.
I'm not uniquely qualified. That's done all the time in forensic pathology. Many forensic pathologists do that.
Did you just say you're one of the very few physicians in the United States who has both the forensic and the clinical experience to look at a photograph and make a determination the mechanism of injury?
No, I said, if I said that, then that was incorrect. I meant dog bites. But your question just now was not specific to dog bites.
Right.
Postmortem photographs are used all the time in forensic pathology for second opinions.
You're right. My apologies. Did you say today and before, have you said that you believe you're one of the only few physicians in the United States who could authoritatively distinguish between causes of wounds when it relates to dog bites?
I did say that, and that's because of my unique training. I don't know of another doctor in the whole United States that did 2 residencies, one in emergency medicine and one in forensic pathology, and has a lifelong interest in dog bites.
So, Dr. Russell, from your perspective, as far as you know, you were the only person in the entire United States of America who was qualified to look at a photograph and make a determination whether the wound was derived from a dog bite.
No. I am one of I'm the only physician that I know of that can do that. There may be, a few others out there. There may be, but I don't know of any other physicians that can do that.
Do you recognize anybody other than yourself who has this very particular expertise to be able to do this kind of work?
Particular set of skills.
I'm not aware of anyone.
You were a medical examiner, a forensic pathologist?
Yes.
And you know there's about, or would you agree there's probably about 900 to 1,000 medical examiners around the country at the same time over a period of time?
I believe that there might be, there's probably, I think there's around 500 or 600 practicing forensic pathologists.
And do you think because they are forensic pathologists, those 500 or 600 people have the unique qualifications as you do to be able to give an opinion about the genesis of a wound?
Wounds in general, perhaps. Dog bite wounds, I doubt that very many of them have a specific interest in dog bite wounds.
And so you think that of all those forensic pathologists, medical examiners, you think that qualification and experience itself is not enough to qualify somebody to give an opinion on a photograph about the genesis of a wound related to dog bites?
Well, if a forensic pathologist has autopsied 1 or 2 cases of dog bite wounds versus my experience with over 500 to 1,000 cases of dog bite wounds, I'm not so sure that person would be a very good expert in that kind of a case.
Have you ever heard of a doctor named Dr. La Posada?
I've heard of Dr. La Posada.
Have you ever read any reports by Dr. La Posada?
No.
Has anybody ever shared with you any information or opinions of Dr. La Posada?
I believe she has a very good reputation.
Have you ever? Well, how do you believe that? Who told you
because
that?
I've heard of her name at national organizations. I believe she's given presentations nationally. I've seen her name, over a dozen years or so.
Do you know whether or not she has any participation in this case?
I believe she does.
Well, so you know when you're providing accolades that she has maybe some involvement in this case? Do you know that?
I would provide those same accolades if she didn't have involvement in this case.
Do you know that she has involvement in this case?
I believe she does. The attorneys have not shared everything with me in terms of who the witnesses are.
Somebody must have shared her name. Who shared her name with you?
I'm very familiar with her name outside this case.
Who shared her name that she may be a participant in this case?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Well, somebody might.
I think I got a file or something, but yeah.
So when you were reviewing this case, did you get materials from any of the attorneys authored by Dr. La Posada?
I don't think I read a report. I was very interested. in reading a report by Dr. Laposada. I was very interested, but I didn't see one.
So when you received materials in this case, you didn't read all the materials the defense gave you?
I don't believe they gave me the report.
What report?
Any report that Dr. Laposada might have written.
Do you know whether or not you've received the report or not?
I received something that had her name on it. I don't remember what it was, but I was looking for a medical examiner's or a report, an actual report, and I did not see one.
Dr. Russell, you are meticulous when you look and examine things.
Right.
So you would know what you've received and what you've read and what you haven't. So the fact that you're telling us that you saw something with her name on it, can you give us a little more information and share with us what it is you actually received about this Dr. Laposada? What did you get from the defense?
I saw something. I think it was the name of a file folder. But I looked for a report, and there was no report in it.
Did you ever ask for one?
I didn't ask because I didn't ask. I wanted to. I really wanted to read it, but I didn't. It wasn't given to me, so I didn't ask.
Were you ever told what other people's opinions might be regarding those photographs?
I'm aware that there was a Dr. Sheridan involved in a previous proceeding, and he believed that those were consistent with dog bites.
Did you ever receive any reports from the defense about what other persons' opinions would be in this trial about dog bites?
Oh, yes, I received a report authored by a non-physician, yes.
So when you say non-physician, you're trying to make the point because you think that person might be your opponent in this case?
I don't have any opponents.
Okay, so why did you qualify him as a non-physician?
Because I believe that in order to really understand wounds on a human being, one needs to have treated wounds, seen lots of wounds, and I think that the person that is best qualified for that is a physician.
So a medical examiner wouldn't cut it, in your opinion?
A medical examiner is a physician.
So you think a medical examiner has enough experience to come in and give an opinion on dog bites?
Some, but in their case, I would hope that they have had actual clinical experience with autopsying some cases where there were dog bite wounds, because I don't think they worked in the emergency room or any other clinical setting where they treated people. So I'd want to see if they had experience with dog bites.
I'm a doctor as a disqualification. How about a dog trainer? Would a dog trainer who's not a doctor have the experience in your mind to come in and give an opinion about photographs and the genesis of the wounds?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
I'll allow it.
How about a non-doctor, as you said, you've made a distinction. They're simply a dog trainer, maybe even an uncertified dog trainer. Would that person have the qualifications in your mind to be able to look at photographs and determine whether or not the cause of the injury is a dog bite?
There may be a certain small subset of people who have, very much experience with dog bites that could qualify, as suggesting that these are consistent with dog bites. But I don't think that they could definitively. I think that someone could, who dealt with many dog bites in the past on humans, could possibly say that they were consistent with.
Even if they didn't have the clinical experience?
Well, I'd prefer to hear that information from a physician, but I wouldn't rule out that only doctors, only a physician, MD, could say that something was a dog bite.
It seems like the standard is now kind of changing a little bit. Because when I asked
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain.
You mentioned the other person, you disqualified the person because they weren't a doctor. It seems now in some instances you're willing to accept a non-doctor into your very select group of experts.
I can explain. If someone had looked at perhaps hundreds and hundreds of wounds inflicted by a dog that they know was inflicted by a dog, and they saw the resulting photographs on a person, I think that particular person may be able to make some comment as to whether or not some wounds are consistent. However, If in terms of a medical examiner, if they've autopsied one case or two cases of dog bites and they're trying to testify based on some pictures, I would be a little concerned about that.
Does qualification for this type of business, in your mind, depend on who hires you?
Absolutely not.
Suffice to say, you've never taken a class in the forensic analysis of dog bites.
I don't think any class exists.
But I'm asking about your experience.
Well, that's correct.
You haven't, have you?
That's correct. I can't take a course that doesn't exist.
You've never engaged in any type of opinion looking at photographs and then had that opinion peer reviewed by other dog bite experts, have you?
No.
Do you have any experience in veterinarian medicine?
I'm aware of it. That's my experience.
Okay. Do you have any accomplishments like degrees?
No.
Now, you've testified a number of times in this case, haven't you?
Yes.
And when you testify, you know there's a court reporter and there are transcripts, correct?
Yes.
You originally testified when you first came out and volunteered to testify last year, and there was a hearing before trial, wasn't there?
Excuse me? Say again, please.
When you volunteered to come out last year, there was a hearing before you testified at trial, wasn't there?
Yes.
Do you remember that was on June 18, 2022?
Sounds right.
And then you then testified at trial on June 21st, 2022.
Yes.
I didn't have the privilege of meeting you on either of those events, did I?
No.
But since then we have met.
Yes.
And we had a chance to speak at a subsequent hearing on December 12, 2024.
Yes.
And then after that, we again had an opportunity to discuss this on January 7, 2025.
Yes.
When you reviewed the case, when you first reviewed it before you testified last year, you had very limited information, didn't you?
Yes.
You had just an autopsy report, photographs from the coroner, photographs from the hospital, an emergency room report. Yes?
Yes, I had more than that.
The medical examiner file had a toxicology report?
Yes, and there was more.
Okay.
I believe there was a dog bite, town of Canton report.
Okay. So when you had an opportunity to look at the medical examiner's report, you yourself had been a medical examiner, correct?
Yes.
And there's a unique advantage of actually conducting an autopsy as opposed to just looking at photographs, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And if you are actually conducting the autopsy, you firsthand can make observations about injuries, make measurements, and see things that don't always appear in photographs.
That's correct.
And when you would do medical exams, you had a distinct advantage over people who would later see your work, a written report, or photographs, because you were there actually conducting the investigation.
Yes.
And it's for that reason that when you testified before, you have acknowledged that you relied on Dr. Scordi-Bello's report for information.
Yes.
Because you didn't have the benefit of doing measurements or looking at depths or anything else firsthand.
Yes. Correct.
And when you looked at that photograph that you discussed with the jury, you also had a chance to see Dr. Scordi-Bello's report regarding the abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Yes.
She described those abrasions as superficial, didn't she?
Yes.
She actually gave measurements, 3 centimeter superficial abrasion on the right medial upper arm. Right?
Yes.
You not only read that, you deferred to her ability to have a first-hand observation, and you accepted that as true, didn't you?
Yes, but there's no interpretation of that abrasion.
Multiple abrasions from 2 to 3 millimeters and up to 7 centimeters on the posterior right arm and forearm.
Yes.
Did you read that from
I
Dr.
did.
Scordi-Bello?
Yes.
Did you accept her finding and observation?
Yes.
And you would agree she was in a far superior position than you when she made these observations and notes, correct?
They are not inconsistent with what I said.
That's not what I asked, though.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be sharp.
Okay.
I apologize. Did you rely on her ability and first-hand observation of those wounds?
Yes.
And did you appreciate or accept the fact she had a superior opportunity to evaluate those wounds firsthand that you did not have the benefit of?
She made no interpretation of those wounds.
Well, did you know that Dr. Scortibello has described them as superficial?
They are.
Did you know that she said there was no depth and no puncture?
Not inconsistent with what I said.
I understand, doctor, but I'm asking you, do you
I
know that her position is that there was no puncture and no depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we have the witness see the report that he keeps referring to?
Can you answer that question without seeing it, or do you need to see it?
Well, I remember it, but there's no inconsistency here. I agree with that.
Would you accept that Dr. Scortibello's opinion is that there was no depth and no puncture to those wounds?
May I see the report?
It might not be in the report. I'm asking about any testimony, anything that she's ever said. Would you agree or accept her position that there is no puncture or depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor. I'd like all the questions that were about an autopsy.
Excuse me.
Yes. Sidebar.
Okay.
Sidebar. Objection, Your Honor. Like all the questions about the autopsy, stricken from the record is what he was about to say. Stricken from the record. It might not be in the report. What? Yeah, that was the clue. We need the dog trainer in next. We need everybody. Oh, he's coming on rebuttal, right? Dog trainer is dog trainer on the prosecution side or the defense side? I think he's on prosecution side. She asked to see the report, and he changed his line. Oh, did he see her face when she asked to see the report? Look at this. Let me get to that point exactly. Back it up, back it up, back it up. Okay, here we go. Let's go right here. I think I've got audio here. No, I don't have audio. Never mind. We'll go forward. She's like, I'd like to see the report. She says right here, I'd like to see the report. And he's like, well, it might not be in the report. And she goes, gotcha. Gotcha. All right. I'll turn the audio on for the next one. But let's see. Sound to HDMI. There we go. That was funny. That smile from her. Oh my goodness. When Brendan's like, oh, but it's not in the report. The thing is, her testimony, she's not saying that he was bit by a police dog. She's said consistently that the dogs, police dogs, you see really extensive, deep tears, bites, because they bite and they hold and they tear. They say civilian dogs, they're much more shallow. And so her testimony there, what I'm understanding, is that this would be the bite from a civilian dog that's not trying to bite and hold on command. So, interesting. Who's reporting about the jurors? Sue O'Connell, commentator, not a reporter. That's her full name on Twitter. Has been a great one. She's in court every single day. She's just reported that we're close to the end of the day, and some jurors definitely have low energy. As Alessi objects and asks for references to the autopsy to be struck, some jurors look surprised. Woo! Let's see. Amber, you're busted. Let's see. I think Mrs. R.A. reads mod chat more than I do. Brennan just pulled a defense attorney trick. He can't do that as a prosecutor. It looks really bad to the jury. Lori Daybell had to be taken out of jury selection in a wheelchair. I think she's sick. I think that's what she's saying. She's feeling ill. She's got headaches and migraines and things like that going on. That's the report we heard. I think it's caused a little bit of a delay in her trial proceeding forward. Jurors, I've been told that we are ahead of schedule, which is great. We've put in a lot of work at the sidebar to save a lot of time. So I'm just going to ask you those same 3 things. If you would just make sure you don't talk to anyone about this case. It's been a good day. It's been a great day. Let's see. Jurors are taking notes. All but one juror has been taking notes, and that juror has been very consistent with not taking notes. I think he's probably going to be the foreman, or she. I'm not sure if it's a he or she. It's a little bit British. I am terrible at accents. Absolutely terrible. I can do like 1 or 2 words, and that's about it. One juror's on his 4th notebook. 4th. You know, you don't get to take it with you. I mean, after the verdict. Irish Eyes, drive safe. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for being with us. I was channeling my Downton Abbey. If it gets really bad, let's see, what do we have to do? Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice. All right, we're back. Here we go. Jurors.
May I?
Yes, please.
Dr. Russell, I read to you the measurements that were in Dr. Scorti-Bello's report. Are you aware that she testified that these superficial abrasions did not have any depth or any puncture?
I don't recall that.
Well, would you agree if Dr. Scorti-Bello testified in this court that those superficial abrasions did not have any puncture or depth? Would you agree with that assessment?
Objection, Your Honor.
In that form, it's sustained.
Would you agree that the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm had no punctures?
I agree.
Would you agree that the abrasions, the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm had no depth?
No measurable depth, yes.
Between the last time you testified and then you testified here today, have you spoken to the attorneys at all regarding the issue of punctures?
No.
Because you are agreeing today that those superficial abrasions did not have any punctures, right?
They don't appear to have any punctures.
But you, in the past, have testified very, very differently than that, haven't you?
No.
Now, we've spoken many times. I'm going to go through many of those examples later, but we'll do that a little bit later, Dr. Russell. Over the course of your many testimonies under oath, would it be fair to say that you have changed your opinions about the superficial abrasions to John O'Keefe's arm many times?
I don't believe that's fair to say.
In the past, when you were describing Mr. O'Keefe's superficial abrasions on his arm, did you give varying and different opinions about the cause of each individual wound, area of wound?
I don't believe so.
When you first gave opinions. That was before the last proceeding. You came in and you were questioned before you testified in that initial proceeding, right? I'm trying to be as specific as I can. You testified last year?
Yes.
And
In
please.
there was a hearing and then there was a proceeding.
Okay. That prior hearing, can we call the first event the prior hearing and the next one the prior proceeding?
I'm confused.
I don't want to confuse you. I'm just trying to follow the rules. You testified twice last year, didn't you?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. The first time you testified was just before the judge?
Yes.
Okay. When you first testified before the judge, do you remember that you had uncertainty about how each and every one of those wounds was caused?
I don't remember that.
And do you remember when you then testified a couple days later at the proceeding that some of your opinions changed from the first time you testified?
I don't believe that.
And then when you later met me and we had a chance to talk over the last 2 events, December and January, would it be fair to say that your opinions regarding the individual areas of wound changed?
I don't believe so.
Okay. At some point before or during our conversations in December and January, you wrote a report, didn't you?
Yes.
When you wrote that report, you hadn't written a report before the first time you came in and testified, had you?
That's correct.
And it was between those hearings in December and in January where you wrote your first report.
Sounds correct.
You dated that report December 9th, 2024. Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
When you wrote that report, you did not write that report alone, did you?
I did.
You had some help, didn't you?
Not in the content of the report.
Well, you sent the report back a number of times for review and revisions, didn't you?
In terms of organization.
Mm-hmm. And some of the language in this report is really not your language. It's the language of somebody who helped you write some of this, isn't it?
You know, if somebody helped me write it, it would have been much better written than that.
Didn't you agree that you had some assistance with the report? Haven't you testified to that before?
And no. And in terms of organization, there was some comments, though, this sentence belongs, you know, with this paragraph or the, you know, whatever. But in terms of content, that was my work.
Well, it was your report, correct?
It's my report.
And when you write a report, it's your words, not somebody else's. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
But nevertheless, you had somebody assisting you. True?
In terms of organization, yes.
Who was helping you with the report?
It was somebody from the law office.
Well, it was this gentleman right here, Attorney Alisi, who just asked you questions. He helped
No,
you, didn't he?
actually, it wasn't.
Was it from his law firm that somebody helped you?
I believe so, but it was in terms of organization.
Do you remember who was helping you with your report?
I don't remember her name.
Would you agree that after that report was written, many of your opinions changed?
No.
In your report, you provide your background. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you've been licensed to practice medicine since 1988?
Yes.
As a physician?
Yes.
And you've been licensed to practice medicine as a surgeon?
It's called, in California, it's called physician and surgeon license.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a physician and surgeon's license?
I do.
Okay. Have you ever practiced as a surgeon?
Well, in the emergency department, we do surgery. We have to do some surgery sometimes. We have to open up people's chests and, you know, and compress the heart sometimes when they have gunshot wounds to the chest. I've had to put chest tubes in. I've had to debride dog bite wounds and other wounds. So yes, there is a component of surgery.
If you do stitches, that's considered surgery, isn't it?
Maybe.
Well, medically speaking, stitches is surgery.
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. Do you have a surgeon's license?
I have a physician and surgeon's license in California.
Now, when you first looked at this case and testified, Do you remember when you were looking at Mr. O'Keefe's superficial wounds, you said that you thought they appeared to be consistent with an animal attack?
I do remember that.
And when you were describing animal attack, you were a lot less specific than you were today, weren't you?
Yes.
You were less sure about your opinion when you first testified about this case than you provided to this jury today.
I was certain that it was a dog attack. However, as I mentioned before to you, in medicine,
to say attack.
We're taught never, nothing is 100%, and therefore never say, anything's 100%. So that's why I gave that generalization. However, I have reviewed the case, but I personally was certain that that was a dog, that those were dog marks. Now, I have reviewed this case over and over and over again. Plus, I've read additional articles more than once, and which substantiate again my findings. So, so my degree of certainty perhaps increased.
So, when you first testified in this case back in June of 2022, are you agreeing that your testimony was less certain than today?
I believed that it was a dog attack at that time.
When you testified, you didn't say dog attack, you said animal attack at the beginning, didn't you?
Yes.
And when you were asked about the cause, you said that it could be bite or scratch wounds.
Correct.
So back in June, when you were looking at individual wounds, you, at that time anyways, were unable to differentiate between bite and scratch wounds.
They are very similar.
I understand, but today you seem pretty unequivocal. So I want to go back to the beginning and see the evolution. I'm asking a question.
All right. So the argumentative part is out. Ask the question, Mr. Gray.
I want to go back to identify the evolution of your opinions. So let's start at the beginning.
So, question, please.
At the beginning, before your opinion evolved, you started with an opinion that this could have been either bite or scratch wounds, right?
Yes.
And if there was actually a methodology where you could identify superficial abrasions and make a determination whether it was from an animal or a dog, there would be something definitive, specific, where you could identify a scratch from a bite wound, wouldn't there be?
Not unless there was a piece of tooth in the wound or a piece of nail. There would otherwise not be any specificity.
You talked about patterns when you first testified back in June of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talked about the patterns, again, you had some uncertainty whether those patterns were caused by nails, claws, or could have been caused by teeth. Isn't that fair to say originally that was your position?
Yes, there is some overlap in terms of the appearances. They can appear very similar, and they can be arranged very similar in terms of parallel lines.
In fact, when you first testified, you weren't consistently even saying that it was a dog, or as you say today, dog attack. You were saying, in your opinion, they were the result of animal bites or scratches. That was what you originally opined, isn't it?
We just went through that, yes.
A dog is an
And
animal.
at some point, you said that it might most likely be a large dog. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we approach with regard to this line of questioning?
So why don't we break for today? All right, so jurors, we're not going to finish this today in the next 5 minutes, so it seems like it's a good place to break. I do have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Please be very careful with your social media use. Tomorrow is also a full day. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Dr. Russell, you can again just follow.
Thank you.
Please. Close it open. Follow me.
Okay, thank you.
Let's let the jury leave.
Can I see counsel while the jury's filing out, please?
Got one last sidebar. I told you it was going to be spicy today. Mr. Brennan has been on the attack with this witness, not so much on the finding, so much as the process to get there, trying to compare slight variances, and there have been variances in her testimony about the injury marks and whether they could be from an animal or a large animal or a dog, and he's doing everything he can, and he's doing a good job at it. I think he needs to dial back the snark. The reaction from some of the jurors that we've seen on Twitter, if I can just tell you, is that some of the jokes that the one-liners that the witness is getting in are landing, and the jurors laughing and smiling, and so it would indicate that they might not be against the witness, and possibly maybe even believing her. If that's the case, Mr. Brennan has to be careful, because she's a sweet lady. She's got a load of experience. I imagine that she probably is the age that a lot of these jurors could look at and say, she reminds me of my grandma. And then you've got this mean lawyer attacking grandma. It's a tough image. I mean, he needs to attack. This is something that the Commonwealth cannot just let stand. This introduces a big question mark into the case, but he's got to be careful. And he's already had to dial himself back just a little bit at one point where she's saying yes and answering his questions. He's coming at with a snark as well, and he's had to apologize for his level of, spice that he's injected into it, when she's just agreeing with him. So how can you not love her? You might not believe her. She seems very credible, but at the same time, a jury could look at this and like her and think, I don't know. I think those might be taillight injuries. So it might be a bite from a Lexus. Why does the judge call them to sidebar? They didn't call it. Probably to talk this over. And Genjo, you were asking a question. Before I forget, Genjo, you asked a question, said, what's that little URL that appears on the bottom of the screen occasionally? What is that small print? And you're talking about like that? Believe it or not, that link may, if you were able to pause and type it up and show it, it may take you to the deleted comment that never showed up on screen, that was held for review and then got deleted, or was briefly on the screen and then deleted by a mod. That's a URL that I can check as mods are making decisions about comments. I can click on that and it will show me what the comment was without putting it back on the screen. And just because of where it shows up, I need to crop that off so that doesn't show up. Otherwise, you guys are going to see what comments are getting deleted, and we don't want that. Oh, show us the list, says Kelly. Show us the list. That's the T. That's behind the scenes. That's a little bit. We're going to wait for just a moment and see if we get any more testimony or anything announced in court. I know there have been a couple filings. I've got a little more information about the filing that was made about the missing witness. A missing witness instruction is what they want, and it's not the defense has not been able to find a witness that like somebody they need is missing, and you need to tell the jury. The missing witness instruction is asked for when it's logical and reasonable and expected that a witness would be called, and they're strangely not called, and there can be a negative inference associated with that, and that is 100% Michael Proctor in the prosecution's case. And so defense is asking for that instruction to be read to the jury about a negative inference they can take from the prosecution not calling the witness, which would be huge. It would be huge. Chloe is a missing witness also. Yeah, but she wouldn't be called to the stand. Let's see. Thank you for the likes, by the way. The likes help the channel a ton. It is absolutely free today. So click the button while you can. Tell me to watch the first trial. Did she make a bigger impact this time? Bree, I thought she did a better job the first time around. Of course, the second time she has to basically testify and account for her testimony both during this trial and in the previous proceedings. So she's got more to be accountable for, more she can be cross-examined on. But I also think that Alan Jackson initially questioned her instead of Alessi, and that he did a much better job with the questions. Mr. Alessi has really struggled on direct with at least 2 witnesses now on the defense's case. Getting the questions, first of all, in a format that's legitimate, that's not leading, right? It's not objectionable, and also steering the witness towards the information that they're trying to elicit from them. He's had a couple moments where we've spent a lot of time spinning our wheels, and he seems to back up and try again, and back up and try again, back up and try again. Occasionally he's gotten there, but it's been painful. So I think she was more impactful the first time for myself. Let's see. Higgins, Brian Albert, Matt McCabe. Yeah, there are a couple other people that might be witnesses. I don't think they would be. I don't think any of those others would qualify as a missing witness instruction. But lead investigator, yeah. Especially they got in today that that he was basically fired for his activity as a lead investigator. They got that in. The firing document mentions lead investigator. At least that's the way it was testified to. He does repeat himself. Alessi is so good on cross-examination. He's so good. As is Mr. Brennan. Mr. Brennan is really good on a cross-examination. I would hate to see a witness get snarky who doesn't have the brain power to back up his snark like Brennan does. Because if we get a witness on the stand for the defense that just wants to bite back, and Mr. Brennan's doing the cross-examination, he will get torn to shreds by Mr. Brennan. He's really, really good. Biggest issue Brennan has raised is her insertion in the case and her having the defense team help her write her report. That was in round 1 as well. So that for us isn't new, but that might be very impactful for the jury. So this jury might be like, they did what? But at the same time, I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples, you've also got Brennan on the outside saying, I paid somebody $400,000 for for their information. We don't have like the perfect witness situation with a Dr. Joe Dr. Joe from I can't say his last name. Joe, forgive me. I apologize. Dr. Joe C. From the Maya trial. Cochran, there it is. I was thinking Kevorkian. I'm like, no, that's Dr. Death. That's the wrong one. Don't get them confused. We don't have a perfect witness. That's just, I'm here for free. I'm not getting paid. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. We don't have that situation. Dr. Goodhair. We'll call him Dr. Goodhair. Anyway, waiting to see if we get anything back from court, and so far we are not. So we'll hold tight, watch the OnlyFans for just a minute. Let's see. In her words, it was only about organizational things. Maybe defense should bring up those emails. Commonwealth asked for every other email. Why don't they have these? Defense does have them, and depending on how she testifies, they may or may not be able to bring them up. If she's careful with how she answers her questions, it sort of takes the air out of their sails, and they can't get everything in that they want to. But wasn't last year she was only allowed to say a large animal? Judge Bev made the ruling about a dog. I think she said dog last year. I don't remember. Okay, I think we're back here. Hang on. Get any sound here? Maybe. Love to hear what's going on in court. The judge is gathering everything up. It looks like we're done for the day, and she's headed out. So no audio whatsoever. So we are done. All right, whatever happened at sidebar, stayed at sidebar. It's like Las Vegas that way. We're not going to find out. until possibly tomorrow as we see if decisions are made in some of these filings, which have gotten a little interesting watching the docket and things that are coming out here. So maybe, I mean, think how big it would be if the judge gave a missing witness instruction to the jury. Okay, let me for context, let me just read this to you just a little bit for those that don't know. This is section 1111, missing witness. This is from the Massachusetts.gov Guidelines and Standards, Guide to Evidence, Trial Court Law Libraries, all that. Okay, this is what we got. Trial Court Law Libraries, argument by counsel. Counsel is not permitted to make a missing witness argument without first obtaining judicial approval. If approval is granted, the court must give a missing witness instruction. The jury instruction is, the court may instruct the jury that an adverse inference, okay, that means you can assume the worst or assume bad things, right? An adverse inference may be drawn from a party's failure to call a witness when, and here are the categories they have to meet, when the witness is shown to be available, the witness is friendly or at least not hostile to the party, the witness is expected to give non-cumulative testimony of distinct importance to the case, and there is no logical or tactical explanation for his failure not to call the witness. Hello? 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 Man, I had a prank call. They hung up. Sorry. So there's no logical or tactical explanation for their failure to call the witness. So the logical explanation, if you remember, Proctor's boss on the stand when he was testifying, is like, yeah, and you know we've got he's no longer with the force, so he can't testify. You can't call him because he can't testify. That's the problem where this argument might fail, because that would be the logical or tactical explanation for the failure to call the witness, because he's been fired. But they're asking for it. I'm not sure if they're going to get it or not. We are all done for the day on that front. Chloe called and hung up. Bark twice if it's you, Chloe. Yeah, the judge, I'm pretty sure she's not going to give the instruction, because it basically, it neuters the prosecution case. You allow the jury to assume there was a problem. Assume, and what sort of problems have been brought up? Witness tampering. Well, witness shoddy investigation, evidence placement or tampering. And those two alone, that's enough to throw the case in a big way. So. Let's see. I recruited a new listener today, an attorney I met. We talked. KR. Kaylee, that's awesome. Wonderful. Welcome, new listener. All right. I think that's everything we've got for today. I think that's all. Any questions I need to answer? Anything I forgot? Let me go back and make sure I recognize all those who deserve a little bit of recognition for benchmark that they've achieved. Daffy, welcome to the gallery. Dr. Bullbutter, member for 19 months. Love everyone here. Sending hugs to y'all. Meg, thank you very much for the super chat. Only 500 likes. I think we're above that now. Hopefully we're above 500. Let's see, 684. Wonderful. So half of you haven't. A little more than half. Do you think the prosecutor's going to go hard at Russell? It's not going to go well with how sweet and old she is if he does. Well, I think that I'm late getting to this one, but yes, he's definitely going hard on her testimony, and I think it's backfiring a little bit. Kevin, how do you think you remembered something so specific and then didn't realize it? That's really sus. I agree. That's a little bit questionable. So. All right, thank you all. John O'Mara, welcome to the gallery. Brand new member. John, you're here now. You can never leave. So there's that. You never want to, though. You're good. All right. Come on, people, acknowledge the stream. Acknowledge it with a big old acknowledge button. All right, I think that's it. I think we're done. Tomorrow's going to be spicy. We're continuing the same witness. We're continuing cross-examination. So we're starting with Mr. Brennan, doing what Mr. Brennan does best. Clerk still has not posted the filings. Thank you, Amber, for that one. Appreciate that. I already acknowledged the stream, but I didn't read it because it was on my smartwatch. Thank you, Sarkay. Thanks to our wonderful mods today. Thank you all for being here. This is the best place to watch true crime, and it's because of y'all. Thank you very much. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again tomorrow morning about 8:45 as we prepare for day 26 in the Karen Reed trial part 2, or round 2, part 1 of day 26, round 2. Something like that. Something like that. All right. Have a good one. I will give you an update. My cat just caught and killed a full-grown squirrel. Squirrels scare the daylights out of me. They can run up one arm and down the other before you can blink twice, and they'll leave a bite mark every 3 inches. But my cat catches and kills them, and is currently eating it in the bush. So the bird seed is working. It combines cat, squirrel, and bird food. So kids are very excited about all that. All right, it's like the circle of life, right in our backyard in North Carolina. Rest in peace, squirrel. You guys have a good night. We'll see you. Be good to each other, and we'll be back in tomorrow for day 26. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Because we here in Canada hate you and hope for bad things for you because we hate you.
Thank you, sir. You're my new best friend.